We typically have one of our clients come in and this session, he was tied up because he's really grown his business, and you may be familiar with a company, one of our clients, Rubin Canada, that owns a company, Canada Enterprises. His publicist should be here in a little bit. He's going to talk about his business, but he has just been so successful. We are so proud of him.
So Erica will be talking to us about Jin+Ja journey and what she's seen through it, and marketing, and a little bit of everything. Right, Erica? The floor is all yours.
Good afternoon. How are you? Good. As you said, my name is Erica Collins. I serve as the Media and Public Relations Director, now on the Board of Advisors for Jin+Ja. Unfortunately, Ruben sends his care and smiles. He's been very, very busy with the company. But I was able to pin him down, and what we've put together is a presentation that's going to address not only media and public relations, but sales, marketing, and distribution. First, we're going to talk about how to take a product from international markets and also from local to national, international media. Ruben actually just returned a couple months ago from the country of Oman. Remember this guy? I want you to first take a moment to look to your left, look to your right, look behind you, you're not looking, look behind you, and look in front of you, because this is the place where Ruben and I actually met. And what we coin that as is basically professional networking. We met right here at the Rutgers FIC Innovation Center. Networking. Can anybody tell me what networking is? Back.
Just meeting people and talking and exchanging ideas.
How many baby boomers do we have? Generation X? Millennials? Golden years. Gen Y? I'll tell a little cute story. When I was about 16 years old, I was being recruited from different colleges. One of the colleges was in Pennsylvania, and then the recruiter actually had this book, and the book had all these business cards in them. You might actually have that now. And I became fascinated by this book. And I said, you know all these people? There were Congress leaders and media folk and different business industries or CEOs of companies. And he said, yes, he said, one of the most important things you're going to learn is a concept called networking. So I was pretty much fascinated all through going to GW, researching, looking up the definition, talking to people about networking. And I finally, in my senior year, went to one of those career classes, and they started to draw things on the board. So they drew a circle, and they drew another circle, and the circles started to link together almost like the Olympics, right? Then they started to put words in the circles. So they put family, and they put friends, and they put associates. And I said, this is the class, I know these people already. So they started to show you what was the concept of your networking circles, and taking your networking circles to another level to be introduced to their networks. And this started to create a map for whatever your challenge or business or career opportunity was. What is networking now?
Social media.
Say one.
Social media.
Yeah, kind of on the board, right? So, yeah, some of you might have children, and they'll say to you, I have 5,000 friends. And you're thinking to yourself, the school only has 1,000 kids, right? Where do all the rest of these friends come from? Their concept, they really believe that they have these full relationships with people they've never met, but they've been talking to them on Facebook, or they're looking at their pictures, and they say, well, I know their brothers, I know their sisters. Did you ever meet these people? What kind of conversations are you actually having with these people? So we really started to think about that. And when you look at the social media, for example, LinkedIn, which is really a professional environment, that has become that business card book. The people that are linked into your network, the people that contact you and want to be linked into your network. And a lot of times you're going to get information about their businesses, their contacts, or just have a general conversation about the food and drink industry. So it's important to get to know each other, how you can help each other out. Barter possibly, partner. You might create business relationships, friendships, or simply just find an event. So let's get back to the study. We're going to talk about local, regional, and national. So we were able to find Ruben. Here he is, right here. Right. So the first picture over here to the side is Ruben at one of his networks. The picture that we have
Old
here,
stomping ground,
which I like to call my claim to
college.
fame, was the 4-week business series with USA Today. That time period, I think, happened within about a 2-year time period. So these concepts are actually coming from Mr. Canada himself. I can't take credit for what we're about to talk about. These are some points that he'd like to make to you. And he also said that this path will actually save you hundreds of time to
you might already
visit
be doing.
store. You're going to conduct demos. Does anybody know what a demo is? How many people have done demos? During the demos, well, let me ask, at your demo, are you just demonstrating the product? Or are you collecting information?
Both sampling and collecting information and building my database for customers.
Okay, that's good. When I first got to Jin+Ja, they were doing a little bit of that, but they didn't really have a systematic system of how they actually were collecting the data. Years ago, I did some promotional modeling for the Sara Lee Corporation and a plus-size clothing line. They had a very sophisticated system on how to collect the data for what people were telling them. And all that information goes into kind of like a process that you can use your business plans when you're talking to investors and as you're developing the packaging for your material. So if you're just having people taste and they walk away, you haven't collected your data. You have to come up with some sort of format, structure, where to put your data. Maybe you want to come up with about 3 to 5 questions that you want to ask. You want to also get their first responses, their reactions. Some of your data can actually be on video. Testimony.
Sophisticated looking, not necessarily help beverage, something fancy.
So those are probably some of the statements that they got when they were talking to people. This is the current bottle, the original Jin+Ja. How does this make you feel?
Poppy.
Happy.
Happy. Happy. Is it because of the color?
Poppy like a calm, like, fun,
What,
happy.
It relates a different message.
what's the message? More healthy?
Yeah. It's on home chart.
Looks like Asian or something with the ninja, it looks kind of like.
You can see through the product, which I've heard this before with in focus groups for healthy products, with products that are trying to portray health, people like to see what's inside of them and be able to know.
Yeah, the great thing about Jin+Ja is that the ginger always settles to the bottom, so it makes you think what's in there. All right. So just look at that. Look at the difference in people talking about this bottle to that bottle. Right? That could happen with your product as well. And the statements that everyone was taking, which is now on video, we will put together and put into collecting your data resource. That's one of the ways you could just simply regional. You'll find your media and PR consultant who will eventually tell your story. They will introduce your brand to the media outlets, and you want to make sure that your media consultant has contacts. The consultant's information can then be used for advertising. I don't know if many of you saw Jin+Ja was on ABC with Alicia Vitarelli this year. Once you've figured out the essence and the core message, you can then redefine your sell sheets, and then your emphasis is more on PR. Your media becomes earned media, not commercials. I'm going to say it one more time. earned media, not paid programming or commercials. We had a company call us and they wanted us to spend about, it was almost 50 to 100 grand for paid programming. You paid. Doesn't really validate air. Now, if you want to go that route, it's up to you. But that's not the best way to acquire media. Local media. You're going to have press releases. You're going to target industry newspapers, magazines, local broadcast news, niche, social media. Most likely your public relations person will help you develop the proper press release for these entities. There's also a concept called cold calling. When you call the desk of a broadcast station, 9 times out of 10, you're going to talk to an assistant or you're going to talk to an intern. And they're going to translate the information to producers. But there's always an executive producer that actually makes the final decision. That's why it's important to have professionals in the field. You're also going to develop a press kit, which during each stage from local to regional to national, you should be getting media hits. You should have a video that's a promotion. You should start to develop product pictures that are professional. You have interactions with your consumers at events. And you're going to set up your social media, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your Instagram. Regional, your press kit should pretty much be solid. What you're doing is you're actually adding to the press kit. You're updating it. So you want to make sure it's in a format upon which you can add. You and your PR person pretty much built relationships with local media. You probably have a couple of media hits, and therefore you're going to leverage that relationship, and you're going to leverage those media hits. National. National really comes for the rising star. Maybe you're acknowledged by a national award, such as the Sophie Award. Your product might have serious health benefits, like lowering high blood pressure. And then national becomes interested in your story. Or maybe you become a speaker for the business community, for small businesses. Remember what we said in the beginning when we were talking about networking. In media and PR, you establish who your consumers are. Talking about what is the recent focus on millennials, which reminds me a lot of when I was on Capitol Hill and Generation X came in. There was a communication difficulty between X and the other generations. And the technology was moving so fast that the bills couldn't be passed fast enough for businesses. Had to catch up to it. So you always want to keep in mind where media, where things are going as you're adding it. Trying to go a little bit faster. So this is an Oprah letter. Notice it's from 1988. Yes, I wrote to Oprah and she wrote me back. This was 1988. Many people wrote to Oprah. They wanted to be on her show. In 1992, I actually met, that's Oprah, that's me, Stedman Graham, who is Oprah's beau of a lifetime. He's actually from Whitesboro, New Jersey. Talk about the networking. When I was at HBO, I gave him a call to see if he would be a speaker at an event. In the 90s, my family ended up actually being on Oprah, my cousins, because they had a large family. There's actually 19 kids in the family. So the question here is, how do you and your product get on Oprah? How do you get the attention? Now remember, we saw the letter from then, right? What do you think? Your thoughts? Endorsement, that's your first thought.
It's not an endorsement. It's not an endorsement. It's to get her, it's basically getting your network to be your, like, grassroots effort to promote your product and get it, you know, on air, yeah, or get her to see it.
You gave me the perfect two responses. Yeah.
To get the Oprah effect that we all want.
You gave me the perfect two responses. This was a campaign from one of our marketing gurus. Oprah, if you look at it, why will she love Jin+Ja? And then it's going to Twitter, it's going to Facebook. She didn't promote Jin+Ja. We're asking her to try it. And we're putting this on Facebook. This is kind of the new strategy behind a social media entity. And maybe you get 1 million hits, she might actually try it. One thing to understand about celebrities, real quick. This is Peter Irvine, and we met Marcus Samuelson. Peter Irvine was under contract, so we could present Jin+Ja to him, but he's not going to use Jin+Ja on his show because he's a corporation, he's a brand, I like to call him the football for certain elements of that. We presented Jin+Ja to him, and he actually has it in his restaurant in New York. Tell people. The future of media. This is you have to try to ask yourself, where is media going? TV versus smart TV, Apple TV, Netflix, on demand? We had one person make a statement. They were trying to say that they were the #1 broadcast station. So when Ruben brought me the information back, I said, #1 where? Because my mind went straight to New York. New York's the #1 market. So which station are you talking about? But then I even took it a little bit further, which I don't have time to play this right now. A friend of mine that I grew up with who works in digital media, president of Black Arrow, talked about video on demand and ad models and dynamic ad insertions and the changing tradition of the TV model. So we go back to networking. Suddenly, people are getting their news from Facebook. They're getting their news from their friends, their family members. So depending on who is part of your Twitter, your Facebook, that's where you're first getting your information. So who's #1? Who's #1 in your life? What's the number resource that you're going to use in your life? I have some friends of mine that were in Boston. They graduated with me in GW, and very smart. And they said, we don't watch the major networks anymore for news. We watch Jon Stewart. I said, Jon, explain this to me, please. And they said, because we like the way he delivers the news. We trust him. Some of news has become entertainment. And it really depends on where you're going for your resources. So keep in mind, whoever your target market is, where are they going for their resources is going to explain where you should put your brand. This is just the information. If you have any questions, you can email me. I also have a Blog Talk radio show. We're doing a new food and drink series. If you're interested, you can send me a press release. That's it.
Thank you very much, Erica. Next, I only have about a half hour total. You keep me on top. You give me when it's Q&A, 10 minutes to go. Give me a hook, and I'll make sure we answer all the questions. Because it's funny, I mean, the young lady was very busy, but I think there were some questions that you guys had, and she just ran out of time, I think. But we'll make sure we don't. I don't want that to happen. She was great, though. Some of the stuff is golden. I'm not sure how I feel about the Oprah thing, but the other stuff, pretty strong. I know, I like all the other categories. I was like checking them off. This is brilliant, 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 brilliant.